Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a ghostwriter? Well, today we're going to find out. Welcome to the Crack the Code podcast. I'm so excited to invite our friend Lana McAra here today. Lana is an award-winning international best-selling author and ghostwriter of 40 titles through traditional publishing with 1 million books sold. Lana is also a spiritual healer and a certified hypnotist who helps her clients resolve old traumas and childhood challenges. Her 27 fiction books are impact-driven, and she teaches others how to write impact-driven fiction as well. She's been teaching how to write fiction for 20 years. Writing under the name Rosie Dow, she won the National Christie Award for her historical novel Reaping the Whirlwind in 2001, and her mystery series, Colorado, sold more than 250,000 copies. She has 2 new titles coming out in early 2023, so pretty quick. Reaping the Whirlwind under her pen name Rosie Dow, and Shaken But Not Stirred by Lana McAra. Welcome, Lana.
Thank you. Thank you so
So
much.
excited to have you on the show. And we were just chatting before we started the recording and found out that we're both mothers of identical twin boys. What's the chances of that?
Exactly.
So crazy. So super excited to have you. I know we haven't had any ghostwriters on the show before. We've had a few authors. I know, there's that old saying that everybody has a book in them, but you obviously have had a lot of books in you.
Quite a few.
Yeah. Did you always write, like even when you were a kid?
No, I was an education major, an English minor. And so I'm an English teacher. I did teach high school English, but I never liked to write. Back in college, I just couldn't stand writing. I was associating it with academic papers. I never had an impulse to write any kind of story. But when I got out of college and I started having children, and I had 7 children in 12 years, one was a set of twins.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But I was, having baby number 1, baby number 2, baby number 3. And about baby number 3, I saw this ad in a magazine, you can write children's books. And it just intrigued me that I could do something at home that would be mentally stimulating. And, I was really bored. I was just doing laundry, changing diapers. I was doing nothing for my mind. And when I found out what creative writing was, then I was totally hooked because I'm avid reader, totally avid reader. And it was so amazing for me. It was a gift to me to be able to do that.
Yeah, I know. I stayed home with my kids for the first few years too. And as much as I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, I did find it difficult. It's the hardest job in the world to keep your mentally going with it because the drudgery of the day to day, you really need to find something for yourself to keep yourself filled up through all of that other work that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you got into writing children's books first then?
No, I took the course on writing children's books and I found out that I love mysteries. And mysteries were always my passion, even from a kid. And so I started writing mysteries. So I write mystery novels and I wrote 20 novels in 15 years. And then I took a break. I went through a divorce and couldn't write and went for about 5 years where I was working at different jobs and trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And then I met someone who connects people with ghostwriters. And that's how I started ghostwriting. And I've written 16 ghostwritten books so far. And I'm coming out with my own work again this year.
Wow.
With my own name on it, because ghostwriting, you don't have your name on anything.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what happened back there? You said you had a 5-year break in there. What kind of what did you go through during that time? Like that must have been a big transition period for you.
Yes, it was because I was a stay-at-home mom for 30 years. I had raised my 7 children. They were all adults at that point. And my divorce was unexpected. It just happened very quickly. And I ended up having to figure out how to make a living. Now, I had 20 titles written, published by traditional publishing. But publishing is very unstable as far as your income. You only get paid every 6 months. You don't know how much it's going to be. It could be $15,000. It could be nothing. You just
Mm.
don't know.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't even feasible for me to continue to do that and have to pay my bills. So I ended up going into marketing because one of the reasons my book sold 500,000 by that point was I learned a lot about marketing and I was good at marketing. So I got some marketing jobs, some sales jobs, and did some other things. And I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do that was, a passion of mine that I enjoyed. I didn't want to do drudge work for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So when by the time I met this lady that had this organization, my friends had already been telling me, why aren't you writing? You should be writing. You're a writer,
Mhm.
But I didn't know how to find clients. I didn't know how to vet myself as a ghostwriter. How can they know that I could do the job for them? And because I joined, I became a subcontractor for this group. They vetted me. They found the
Mm.
clients, and it was a way for me to break in. Now I take clients that are not in that group as well. I take private clients, but that was my bridge to begin ghostwriting. I did some side work for them for a few years, and then in 2015 I went full time, and I've been full time ghostwriting since 2015.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I know we talked a little bit about this before we got recording. I mean, I'm an emotion code practitioner, and you mentioned that part of your journey to discovering yourself was doing some work with an emotion code practitioner. How did that work out for you?
That was a funny story, which I haven't told you yet.
Oh, awesome.
I was at a business conference. It was eWomen Network in
Mm.
Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was, there at the event, networking and everything. And this lady came up to me. I never seen her in my life. She had this fluffy dark hair, and I was standing on one side of a table and she was standing on the other side. And she put her hands flat on the table, leaned into me and looked in my eyes and said, "We're going to do great things together." And
Oh,
I went,
all right.
"Okay." Like, what did you have in mind?
Yeah.
He said, "I am an ICU nurse and I practice the emotion code, and I want to give you a free session. It'll change your life." Well, at that point, I had done tapping.
Yeah.
So I had a little understanding of what can be done with emotions in the body and that. But I had no idea, what the emotion code was. And I said, "Well, how do you do it?" And she said, "Oh, it's a magnet and you go over the prime meridians." And then my next question was, do we have to be together in person? She lived in Asheville and I lived
Mm.
in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So she said, "No, no, we can do it over the phone. It'll be fine." I said, "Okay, fine. She's going to give me a free session. I don't know what the downside is, right?"
Yeah.
I said to myself, "Well, it's not scary and it seems pretty simple, so no big deal."
Oh.
Oh boy. Definitely was a big deal. The first time, and I worked with her for a long time, but the first session was absolutely incredible. Within, I say, 5 minutes, she had come down to the fact that I had been molested when I was 6 years old.
Um,
It was a hidden memory that
yeah.
had never been spoken before. And it just knocked me back. It knocked me back in several ways. Number one, how did she know so fast?
Yeah.
And secondly, that she was able to actually do work on that and help me begin to clear that. And the fact that I didn't know her from Adam, she didn't know me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet it was so profound. I was blown away because in my experience, aside from the tapping, in my experience, any kind of unlocking of the emotions and all that ended up being very traumatic, a long drawn out process. And you didn't feel better afterwards. You felt
Yeah.
worse. And
Yeah.
to be able to have something like that, that I felt so much relief. And I remember getting off the phone and going and lying on my bed and just laying there and feeling shaky because this was opening my mind and my
Mhm.
awareness of what is out there, so much more than I ever dreamed of. So it
Yeah.
was very profound. And I worked with her for quite some time. And then my daughter came down with Lyme's disease
Mm.
and she almost died.
Wow.
And the same practitioner just literally saved her life. And the way she did was that she gave her hope
Yeah.
after all this doctor, rounds to the doctor. They're giving her medicine and stuff that isn't doing a thing but make her feel worse, and no answers. And when I said to her, you need to have a session with this practitioner, so she did. And she says now that that session was the turning point where she realized there is something else that I can do to feel better. It doesn't have to be over here, this other thing that isn't working at all. And so the hope and the clearing and all of that was profound in her life as well. And now looking back, what prompted this woman to
Yeah.
approach me at a meeting with all these people? It's probably 65, 70 women.
Yeah. That's crazy. And was that
That's,
during your transition period? Was that when all this
yes,
happened? So you were probably open for something and she just happened to plunk right in front of you.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And I just posted another episode with my friend Jackie Metzger, who she does sound healing and a lot of other modalities. And it's really interesting to hear people's stories of all the different types of healings and what's available. So, if you have some kind of health challenges and the doctor can't, help you, or you need some other assistance, look for other alternatives. And that's one of the things that I'm really doing on this podcast, is bringing together other options for people to look at, because even if they can marry those two together, it just helps people heal so much faster. Especially, you can heal that emotional side, and then the body can heal itself from whatever else is going on physically. So that's an amazing story, Lana. Thanks for sharing that with us. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about the ghostwriting. Like, after writing so many books, and maybe you can give us some tips for people who are wanting to write books, because you have written so many. And I'm thinking people at home are probably thinking, well, if I wrote that many books, I'd be making a lot of money. Like, obviously, there's a lot more behind the scenes to making money as an author than what we see in the stores.
Yes, one of the reasons why I went to ghostwriting was that I had to earn a living, because a book, generally speaking, if people want to use it to earn money, they write a book about what they're doing in their business and use the book as a launch pad for more business. They don't make money on the
Yeah.
book, they make money with more business. So it's really important to set your expectations at the right level. There are only a handful of James Pattersons in the world. And so, that's not to say that there aren't more talented people, but there's a dynamic. There's a reason why these people are at the top shelf, the same way some movie stars are at the top shelf. So, what I did was I created a system where the organization, or sometimes on LinkedIn, I get quite a few clients,
Mm.
private clients on LinkedIn, will come to me and say, I have this book idea, I have material, but I don't have the time or the expertise to write it myself. And so then we had a meeting to talk about the project and what they want. And I always ask them, what do you want the book to do for
Mm.
you? What's your end game? After the book's over, what do you want to have happen? Because that gives me information about how to structure it, whether there needs to be a marketing piece in it, or what, we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the book, you want to have a next step.
Right. So are
And
you
then we,
actually writing their book as this as a ghostwriter, or is this coaching
yes,
people? Okay.
I also coach. I do book coaching as well. But in a ghostwriting situation, most of the time they have notes, articles, they might have some speeches or maybe a program. And I take that information and I create a book out of it.
Mm. Okay.
So we go into development where we set up the chapters. That's the first phase. Then we go into the writing phase, and I write one chapter, then send it to them. They look it over. We have another meeting. So we are doing like a tennis match, like write a chapter, have a meeting, write a chapter, have a meeting. And that way they're very involved. They know exactly what's going on. I can say to them, well, I need 2 more case studies, or this needs a little more information. Do you have any research? Because I have an idea of the flow of what needs to be in the chapter to make it complete. And then they'll bring me more material, or they'll say, this needs to be changed a little bit. It's almost right, but it needs to be tweaked. And so as we work through this collaboration, then they are bringing forward their message. They're just using my skills to bring it forward in a professional level way, so that when they're finished, the book is top grade and people would not know they didn't write it because it's in their voice. I write in their voice. So that is why it's called ghost writing, because the writer is actually ghosting in the background. And that's okay, because for me, I get paid at the beginning of the development. I get paid at the beginning of the writing, and every 50 pages. It's paid in advance, but only 50 pages at a time. So the author knows what to expect. It's a payment now. We write 50. They see how it's progressing. Then we go on to the next 50. And that also pays my bills. So that's a really good working model that's worked really well for me. At the end of the time, I go back and I edit the entire book in one sitting or a week. I spend bringing it all together and also formatting it for publication and all the tags and things that have to go in and all that. At the same time, I'm coaching the client about marketing, how to get ready for marketing, what happens after the book is done. And I can make recommendations about publishers that may be interested, connections that I have. And I try to help my clients as much as I can, because it's difficult to get out there and market your book once it's out. Because truth be told, the work only begins when the book is done.
Yeah, it's a totally different mindset. And marketing is tricky for most people that don't know how to do that, whether it's business or marketing or book or any of that stuff. And it's not always comfortable marketing your own product, but it takes some work to do that. Yeah. Well, that's a super interesting story. And I know there might be some people out there. I mean, it must be kind of interesting. You're writing different stories all the time. And because you do so much of the work hands-on, it must be very stimulating for you. Obviously, like a challenge like that, to be going through and doing the whole thing.
Oh, I love it, because when we have our initial meeting, number one, I have to be able to feel like comfortable with the person, that we communicate well. And second of all, it has to be a topic that I'm interested in. And I'm interested in a lot of topics. It's not like it's just a couple things, but if I'm interested in it, it's an opportunity for me to learn, get into another arena and understand different mindsets. I've written books for 2 medical doctors. I've done a few memoirs. I wrote a memoir for a woman who was the first woman to stand on the floor of Lloyd's of London. What an amazing story she had. I mean, it was awesome. I felt so privileged to work with her. So it's exciting to me, and it allows me to then have time to write my own material, which I've got some stuff coming out this year. And on the other end, I'm launching a course on how to write a novel.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'm sure people will be able to find that useful, and we'll have lots of notes on how to get in touch with you in the show notes if people want to reach out to you about that. With your writing on your own, are you back into mystery writing for your own books? Okay. And is that a series, or is that separate books? How do you have that going?
The book that's the new book coming out is called Shaken but Not Stirred. It's the first in a series called The Englewood Medium. And it's the first book I've had my own name on in about 15 years. I am just delighted. I feel like I'm getting my real life back to be
Awesome.
out there again. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to reading it because I love a good mystery novel. And maybe maybe you will be the next Jim Patterson. Who knows? And then we can say, "Oh, remember that day you were on Cora's podcast?" And I know part of writing, you have to keep in a positive mindset. And to help you with that, I know you have a special download for the readers.
Yes, if you go to my website, lanamcara.com, click on new releases. There is a video there. It's called how to throw away negative thinking in 7 minutes or less. It's just a 7-minute video. And you can go back to that and watch it. Every time you have a negative thought, it tells you how to get rid of it in 7 minutes or less. It really works.
Well, that's a good one because I know when you're writing and getting in that, if you're not in the flow, or maybe things are just getting in the way, it's nice to have a little something that you can do to get you motivated. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I can't wait for it to be out. And folks, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, hey, maybe I should write a book, maybe I could even be a ghostwriter, check it out because it's never too late.